Oh, man. Will Smith, the gift that just keeps on giving. So, a lot of you guys wanted me to talk about the Will Smith, Chris Rock situation that happened about a week ago. I never covered it on this channel. The last video I made on Will Smith was the Jada Pinkett Red Table Talk, something like that, where she talked about her entanglement with August Alsina. So I covered, basically I broke down that entire Red Table Talk that she did, which was a bunch of BS, and truly emasculated Will Smith on a grand scale. And I feel like that contributed a lot to what we saw last week with him and Chris Rock. It's little things like that in a man's life, in a married man's life, that over time add up to these big outbursts of frustration and anger. And a lot of times, you know, people just sweep that under the rug. People don't realize, and especially, you know, women that aren't in men's bodies don't realize that their actions, their behaviors, their little side comments over the years, and their disrespect towards us, quite frankly, as men, that they don't think should bother us. It does bother us, and we're seeing that boil over with Will Smith now. We're seeing him, you know, truly frustrated, truly just out of control, because it's gotten to a point now where, you know, he is no longer in control of his body. He is no longer in control of his emotions. He has now let his wife control everything he does, including him acting the way he did a week ago and being totally out of character, because I don't think that's in Will Smith's character to do something like that. You know, a lot of people were saying he did what he did because she's had a past with Tupac, and that's the type of guy that she likes. She likes more of that thug, bad boy type of guy. Will Smith is, you know, he's not that guy. And this was sort of a way for him to assert his alpha dominance and his inner gangster, go up and slap a smaller man than him on a stage, and then walk off like a badass and sit down and then say, "Keep my wife's name out your effing mouth. You know, you really got him there, bud. You're truly, you know, Tupac 2.0 by doing something like that." But besides all of that stuff, I just wanted to talk about, you know, the Jezebel Spirit, because I talked about the Jezebel Spirit in the last video with the August Alsina entanglement, because it was clear to me that, you know, Will Smith is being truly affected by this, you know, Jezebel Spirit, so to speak. Now, those of you that know the Bible understand the story of Jezebel with Ahab and all of that. I'll break it down for you very briefly, so that those of you guys that weren't raised religious can understand what the Jezebel Spirit means and how it applies to this situation. Because I think there's a lot of valuable lessons that we can learn from these biblical stories, you know, and thousands of years later, they apply to situations like the one that we're seeing right now. So there were two incidents in the life of Jezebel that characterized her and may define what is meant by the Jezebel Spirit. One trait is her obsessive passion for domineering and controlling others, especially in the spiritual realm. When she became queen, she began a relentless campaign to rid Israel of all evidences of Yahweh worship. She ordered the extermination of all the prophets of the Lord, 1 Kings 18 verses 4 and 13, and she replaced their altars with those of Baal. Her strongest enemy was Elijah, who demanded a contest on Mount Carmel between the powers of Israel's God and the powers of Jezebel and the priests of Baal, 1 Kings 18. Of course, God won, but despite hearing of the miraculous powers of the Lord, Jezebel refused to repent and swore on her gods that she would pursue Elijah relentlessly and take his life. Her stubborn refusal to see and submit to the power of the living God will lead her to a hideous end, as we see in 2 Kings 9:29 through 37. You guys can follow along if you want to. That's why I'm reading these out. The second incident involves a righteous man named Naboth who refused to sell Ahab land adjoining the palace. Ahab, once again, is Jezebel's husband. So this man Naboth refused to sell Ahab this land, rightly declaring that to sell his inheritance would be against the Lord's command. And you can follow along in 1 Kings 21:3 and Leviticus chapter 25 verse 23. While Ahab sulked and fumed on his bed, Jezebel taunted and ridiculed him for his weakness, then proceeded to have the innocent Naboth framed and stoned to death. Naboth's sons were also stoned to death, so there would be no heirs, and the land would revert to the possession of the king. Such a single-minded determination to have one's way, no matter who is destroyed in the process, is a characteristic of the Jezebel Spirit. So why do I bring up those two personality traits that the Jezebel Spirit embodies in regards to the Will Smith, Jada Pinkett-Smith situation with Chris Rock? Why do I bring that up? Even though one seems so extreme, a man was stoned because he refused to sell his land to the king, whereas, Chris Rock was bitch slapped by Will Smith by the commands of his wife. Why those two extremes, right? I bring up those two extremes because it is the same spirit to a lesser degree that took control of, in this case, in the Bible's case, King Ahab, even though in his heart of hearts, he didn't want to kill Naboth for his plot of land. His wife still influenced him and manipulated him into doing so, even though that went against, his moral compass and his value set. It's the same way that we see, obviously, once again, for those of you guys that are out there, to a lesser degree, before you go and hit dislike and report this video, he's comparing it to a man that sold land and had a man stoned. Chill we understand they're gravely different situations. It's the same spirit though, that's what I'm bringing up. We see Chris Rock make the G.I. Jane 2 joke and Will Smith's laughing. But next to him on the side, Jada Pinkett is upset. For no reason, it's a roast. It's a Hollywood roast. You go there to get roasted. You're not the only one getting roasted. The world does not revolve around you, Jada Pinkett-Smith. And we're able to see Will Smith's initial reaction to the joke, which is he thinks it's funny too, right? He thinks it's funny. The camera cuts back to Chris Rock. Chris Rock continues his little spiel, and then he's like, uh-oh, because while the camera's not showing it, Jada Pinkett leaned over or gave him that look, and we all know that look, right? Like, you better do something about this situation. You better not let that man talk to me that way. You guard dog. You're my guard dog. Tupac would never let a man talk about me that way. You better do something, Will. You don't let him just talk about me like that, your wife? Yeah, I took nut on the face from August Alsina. Yeah, I disrespect this marriage all the time, but only I can disrespect this marriage, and only I can talk bad about myself. Now it is time that you, Will Smith, prove your loyalty to me. Prove how good of a beta male simp guard dog you are to me, and go and defend my image. Defend me as your wife, and go and handle that situation so it never happens again. You go do that for me, because I've been such a doting, good wife to you all these years, right? Right? Will Smith is not that type of guy. I truly believe Will Smith is going through a mental crisis, a breakdown. He is spiritually empty. He has a lot of mental issues going on right now, guys. And I said this right as soon as I saw it happen, because I truly believe that this is the case in my heart of hearts. I think he is extremely depressed and possibly suicidal. That's what I think. And he got himself in this situation because he was spiritually weak, because he allowed this woman to come into his life, break up his first marriage, mind you. He was married before. Break up his first marriage, chasing after a woman that never wanted him. And now we see the consequences of chasing a wicked woman and tolerating day after day, year after year disrespect, public disrespect from your wife. This is what happens. So what we're seeing, and what I try to warn you guys about on this channel, is this is what happens when you aren't in control of your life and you put your faith in, a woman. You put your faith in, especially in this situation, a wicked woman. A woman that does not have your best interests. And what we're seeing on a grand scale on television is the unraveling of Will Smith, who was a good man over the years. We're seeing him completely self-destruct because of his decision in a life partner. Because of his decision to, leave his former wife because maybe she wasn't as attractive or she wasn't as freaky as Jada Pinkett-Smith was. And a lot of times we chase things that we can't obtain, and that was what he did. And we see the consequences of that. We see what happens when a man prioritizes a wicked woman or his wife in general ahead of his purpose, ahead of his life's goal, ahead of what he's trying to build. And, as great as Will Smith is, and as many amazing movies as he's put out, we see how easy it is for a man that has his status and his achievements to come crumbling down. I mean, imagine if Will Smith was, a single guy and he wasn't having to deal with all this stuff when he goes home in regards to his wife. Imagine how many other movies Will Smith would put out, how many other TV shows he would be in that were amazing, and, books that he would come out with, all these different accolades that he would have, because he's already doing that in a toxic environment. And a lot of people think like, well, it's the woman behind the man, and he wouldn't be in his position without his wife. Number one, his wife hasn't been in anything since I don't know when, since before I was born, so no. And number two, what's to say he wouldn't be greater than he already is? And he's pretty great already if he was in a healthier relationship. Just saying. As great as he already is, imagine that like times 1,000-fold if he was a single guy or he was married to a good woman, So I just wanted to put this quick video out here for you guys. I don't want to bash Will Smith because, I've seen this play out before in marriages where the man totally unravels and he actually loses his mind. 9 times out of 10, it is his responsibility to pick the right woman, but she is behind the scenes more than likely pulling the strings and manipulating this man into making terrible decisions in regards to his image, his reputation, and his legacy. So let me know your guys' thoughts on this topic. I know everyone and their mom's been talking about the Will Smith situation, having their own thoughts on it, but I just wanted to share my personal thoughts on it as well. In no way am I taking responsibility for what Will Smith did to Chris Rock away from him. He should own up to his decision, and he should be held, liable for his actions. But I just want to put this video out there and let you know behind the scenes why I called Jada Pinkett-Smith a Jezebel Spirit, because that is exactly what she is. And we're seeing it right now in modern times. Old biblical stories. Love you all. Stay blessed. Have a blessed rest of your day. Let me know what other videos you want to see in the future. I'm gone. Have a good one.